Hi, we're here with Nick Archer today, Chair of the NCCA Ltd. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Callum. Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's great to have you with us. So Nick, just tell us a little bit about your journey and your earliest memories in cricket.
Oh, a long, long time ago now. My earliest memories are going down as a very young boy to watch my local club, which was Walsall, play, and went through the usual routes of playing on the outfield when I was a kid of about 5 with a litter bin as the wickets with various other kids
Okay.
of my age. Became the scorer with the second 11 when I was sort of 8 or 9. Uh, Began to play properly at school when I went to grammar school, and it went from there really. And I played sort of for Walsall. Walsall was actually the only club I ever played throughout my career. But I played for Staffordshire under-13s through school rather than club at the time, because obviously the pathways were, well, I don't think anybody had even thought of the word pathway at that time. But I started and I went through the Staffordshire system, and I was lucky enough to play for England schools under 15 and England schools under 19. But I actually had a parallel rugby union career as well. And I ended up playing for England schools under 19s, and I went on a tour to Australia, which obviously took place in the summer. So it took a complete year out of my cricketing career, which was probably a crucial year looking back at it. So it was at the time that if you were going to progress, you'd have perhaps played a bit of county second 11 cricket. But I did go on and play quite a really good level of rugby, so I've got no regrets about it whatsoever. And having played league cricket from Warsaw, I was picked for Staffordshire when I was 17, first of all, which was a very unmomentous debut because I got a pair in my first game.
I was coming on to your
As,
debut, yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Don't
as a
worry,
seven,
I got naught on my debut as well. It's any consolation.
yeah. And then I played intermittently for the next 3 or 4 years before getting a regular place in the side, and progressed through to being skipper of the county side for 11 seasons. I think it was between 85 and 95, where we were quite successful. And then sort of went through, had a, I wouldn't say a few years away from it, but less hands-on. I played for 1 year after I stood down from captaincy. And then eventually I became secretary of the county club, chairman of the county club, and then got involved with MCCA as it was at the time, and on to NCCA. So definite pathway through administration, even if I didn't have it through cricket.
No, brilliant. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you, because that's a great whistle-stop tour on your sort of journey and how you've come to where you are today. I mean, just focusing a bit past your debut, I mean, you must have had some wonderful experiences with Staffordshire over those, 11 seasons as captain, never alone, the entire career that you had. I mean, can you share any of
Yeah.
those with us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a much different game at that time. 2-day cricket. There were no one-day competitions when I started at all. It was purely 10 two-day games, and I have to say they were far more social occasions than they probably are now. That's not to denigrate what it is at all now. I think the standards of fitness now and the way players approach the game is much more professional than it was certainly when I first started playing. But yeah, some terrific memories. We used to go away. We had set fixtures in those days. We played 5 different counties home and away. Northumberland and Durham were always on our fixture list. So we had an annual tour. It was called the Northern Tour, where we travelled up on the Sunday and we played Durham on the Monday and Tuesday, and went on to play Northumberland on the Wednesday and Thursday, and came back recovered on the Friday, played a league game on the Saturday, and the cycle began again the following week, really. So yeah, some great memories from that.
No, brilliant. Oh, I really like that. And I mean, you know, back then, I suppose, and I've had a couple of guys who have played sort of in the sort of 70s and 80s in national counties cricket. I mean, it was still quite a fundamental part of the first class season as well, wasn't it? You had fixtures against major counties regularly. I mean,
Yeah.
any memories from those? I mean, we've had the likes of people who are talking about Dev Malcolm and Malcolm Marshall and David Gower
Yeah.
and all sorts.
I got 2. We qualified for that C&G. Well, I think it was even Gillette Cup when I first started playing again, which ages me massively. And then it went to NatWest, and then it became C&G. But the 2 standout memories I've got were batting against Malcolm Marshall at Stone, which was a real flat wicket. And he just let me have a short one, and I just instinctively went for it and hit him about 6 gardens back up the road, and he just looked at me and wagged his finger at me, and I thought, probably not the wisest thing to do, but it was an interesting moment. But the next ball that came down, I swear, swung in about a foot and hit the seam and went away and went to second slip. There was no way that was going to go at the same distance. And the other one we played Surrey when they had Sylvester Clarke opening the bowling, and one of our opening batsmen, Dave Cartledge, who's now the director of cricket at Staffordshire, got hurt in the field. So as captain at the time, I felt I got no option really to go and volunteer and open. And I'm pleased to say I managed to get 45 in the game. But actually playing against Sylvester was quite an interesting experience, particularly when I flat batted him to third man. And David Ward was fielding there, and I don't think he was concentrating that well, because I think he was having a bit of banter with the crowd, and he managed to push it over the bar for 6. So that was another one. And Basharat Hassan was umpiring at the time, and I got down the other end. He said, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Not to him, nasty man." So those probably personal memories, but on a team memory, we played Notts at Trent Bridge one year when they had Chris Broad, Tim Robinson, Derek Randall, Richard Hadley, Clive Rice playing. After an hour and a half, we had them 71 for 7, and all the television cameras came in expecting a shock. But unfortunately, Paul Johnson, we hadn't got him out the other end, and he went on to get 143, and they got about 270, which again, obviously was far too many for us at the time. But that was quite an exciting 2 hours cricket. That was getting all those guys out.
Yeah, I bet that's some memories, some real big names in cricket there, and of course up at Trent Bridge. So that must have been a really interesting day.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I suppose the other significant factor when I first started playing was that there were overseas players playing in minor counties cricket, and we played against some terrific players then, like Dilip Doshi, Lance Cairns, Wasim Raja, Dilip Vensarkar played for us. Some real good quality international names, and there were others as well that I don't quite spring to mind at the moment. But if you trawl back through the late 70s and early 80s, it was a real catalogue of international players playing at that level of cricket.
No, brilliant. No, thank you for sharing those with us. That's really amazing, to have those calibre of players on side. And I mean, I suppose one of the themes that we've had through our National County segment has been around the relevance of it and the fact that it provides opportunities to those that basically without it wouldn't get an opportunity. I mean, what do you see with regards to this and the future of the National Counties cricket? Yeah,
I think until very recently, we've had to fight to justify our existence, really. I think there was quite a lot of cynicism from the first class game about what minor counties cricket was. I think it was seen at one time, particularly when the overseas players went, that it was a bit of a rest home for ex-first class players who came in and got paid and didn't really contribute anything back to the game. And when we went through our last sort of round of funding negotiations over 2 years ago now, that was still a definite feeling of the first class counties. But, I was at pains to suggest that, yes, that might have been the case 10 years ago, but it had changed significantly since then, not least the fact that we were now playing 3-day cricket, so the game developed more naturally rather than it was quite a forced game at 2-day cricket to get 4 innings in 2 days. And yeah, there are some fantastic examples of players who have come through the minor counties game who've gone on to reach even Test cricket. But I think even more significantly, there were a lot of players who probably failed first time round when they were younger on a first class staff, came into the minor counties game and went on and progressed again. We had Dean Headley was a classic example of that. He'd been at Worcestershire as a young lad. He came and played for Staffordshire. Obviously improved his game. Middlesex picked him up, and then he went on to Kent, and of course he played for England, on very many occasions and did really well for England. We also had Joey Benjamin, who came up, who was quite a late developer. He played club cricket around Birmingham for quite a long time. He played for Staffs for 2 seasons. Warwickshire had another look at him, having had a look at him earlier in his career, took a punt on him. in and out of the Warwickshire team, went to Surrey, established himself and played a test match. You know, fantastic story that was of Joey, because he'd basically come out of Parks cricket more than anything else.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And so, I mean, just while I have you here, Nick, I mean, obviously at the moment there's, you know, I've certainly seen it myself, there's a lot of young guys playing in this competition. I mean, what advice would you have to sort of those guys that are probably coming towards the end of their time in those county age groups, probably aren't going to be put into an academy? You know, what sort of advice would you have them for getting involved with national counties cricket?
I think absolutely that it probably represents another chance to achieve your dreams. I think there's quite often been, snobbery is probably a bit too strong a word about it, but there's been a little bit of, you know, certainly in the area where I am in the West Midlands, you know, you've got a fantastic choice. You could go to Worcestershire, you could go to Warwickshire, you could stay with Staffordshire, you could stay with Shropshire. Countless sort of examples of kids opting at 15 to go and play for Worcestershire and Warwickshire, and probably just being fringe players, whereas if they'd stayed with Staffordshire or Shropshire, they'd have probably progressed a bit quicker and achieved their goals that way. My advice really would be, you know, don't rule anything out. Even if you're a young Warwickshire lad coming through and you're not quite achieving what you want to at Warwickshire, you know, look around and go to somewhere like Staffs. We've had a fantastic relationship with Warwickshire over the last 3 or 4 years, where they've got 4 of their lads, well, 2 of their lads now are playing regularly in the first team, and 2 others have played first team cricket, who came and played for Staffs just for a little bit of experience. And although they only played 2 or 3 games for us each, you know, they made a significant contribution. And I think it helped them realise that there is another world outside first class cricket as well.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Well, brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Nick. And I mean, that'll probably bring our segment on the national counties to an end. But just before I let you go, I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you.
Yeah.
So, your favourite ground?
I'd have to say my home ground, really, because I've played on it so many times, which is Walsall Cricket Club, which, you know, is a grand old cricket ground in many ways. Still got stands down one side of the ground, which for a club ground is fairly unique. The outfield was fairly contoured. I have to say, it wasn't as flat as a lot of grounds I played on, but, you know, I played all my career there, so I played at least half of my games ever at Walsall, so I'd have to say Walsall.
Like that. Your favourite current player?
My favourite current player, that's a really difficult one. Chris Wokes.
Okay. Your favourite umpire?
My favourite umpire, probably Neil Bainton, and that's because he came up through the minor counties system, and you know, I'd say he started umpiring after I'd finished playing, but he was always around, and he was good, and he's another one of these guys who had got no edge to him whatsoever, and he you know, he treated all the minor counties players just as he would do first class players.
Oh, nice. Your highest score?
My highest ever individual score was 157 not out in a Sunday game, so that probably doesn't count. But my highest significant score in a league match was 128 against Barnt Green in a Birmingham League game. I can't quite remember what year it was, but that was my highest, definitely. Yeah.
A good day, good day. And the final one, the best place you've ever been for cricket?
Toss up between Australia and Argentina. Lucky enough to go and play cricket in Australia with the Midlands Club Conference side in the early 90s, which was a great experience. But I also went with MCC to Argentina in 2001. And I think, although the standard of cricket in Australia is probably higher, I think on balance, Argentina was a fantastic place to go and play cricket.
Brilliant. I'm holding out for that MCC Argentina tour. I thought I might get close the other year.
Yeah, no, I'd thoroughly recommend that one. If you get an opportunity, don't miss that.
So Nick, we tend to close our little segments here with one question, which for you is what is the single most important aspect or value of cricket to you?
From my point of view, it was probably, I enjoyed the competitive nature of it, but I also enjoyed the sociability of it as well. And much as I admire the way the game has developed, and I absolutely love 3-day cricket in national counties cricket as opposed to the 2-day cricket I have. But looking back on it, I'm glad I played when I did, because it was very competitive, but it was very sociable as well.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Nick, thank you so much for your time. It's been brilliant, and you know, I look forward to catching up with you in the season.
Yeah, well, I'll probably see you on Sunday.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, cheers, Callum.